I'm Jim Thompson.
And you can hear the good stuff every Monday through Friday morning at this time, sponsored by our good friends over at PTCI. It is 7:29, just about 7:30 on this Tuesday morning. And I would at this time like to welcome to the Wake Up Show Oklahoma Senator Jim Inhofe. Good morning, Senator.
Well, good morning, Rick.
How are you doing? I hope you got some rest because you guys put in a late night Friday night.
Okay, first of all, you're coming in pretty garbled. I can't have a hard time understanding you. Say that again, please.
I said I hope you guys got some rest after your long night on Friday.
Oh yeah, we did. You know that was worth it. It was shouldn't have been necessary. It just the Democrats who didn't want to have any kind of change in our tax system were making all these accusations about taxing the poor and all that. It's just not true. Let me tell you, Rick, it's a great thing that's happening right now. I mean, we are sitting. I'm old enough to remember, and I was not in the Senate then, but I remember the 80 tax reductions during the time that we were able to reduce the tax rates by dramatically, and it had the effect of really increasing the revenues, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing now. So I'm very excited about it, and it's going to be a great thing for everyone who's listening to us right now.
Yeah, it does seem to everybody seems to be happy with what's going on now. Of course, the next step now is to kind of combine the House and Senate bills and try and get it to the President.
Okay, yeah, the House passed their bill. The Senate passed its bill. I was on the Hugh Hewitt show this morning talking about an amendment that I had that would produce a lot of revenue immediately to offset some of the losses that we had. And it's something that can do it. And this briefly, let me tell you what it is, because I think it is significant. It allows a person who has a retirement plan where the money is locked in until that person reaches an age of like 59 and a half or age 60, and allows them to take out 25% of the proceeds without any penalty other than a fee of 10%. Now, that would immediately bring in a huge billions of dollars into the system and allow people to have the use of their money. Now, that would all go to increasing the economy. This is something that's kind of hard to explain, but it's a fact that no one can argue with, and that is the increased revenue that comes when you reduce marginal tax rates. Every time that happens, it start going back to the John Kennedy days and then the Reagan days. Every time you reduce those marginal rates, it had the effect of dramatically increasing revenue. And so that's what's happening. And as proof of that, during the 8 years of Obama, the economy, the GDP in the economy only increased an average of 1.5% a year. Already in the second and third quarters of this administration, it has doubled that, more than doubled that. It's over 3%. And then for each 1% increase in the economy, that equates to $3 trillion of new revenue in the first 10 years. So that's what we're embarking on right now. The first time since 1986 this has happened, and it's going to be it may end up, the House and the Senate are meeting as we speak right now, and it may end up that we'll have a bill passed on the president's desk and signed by Friday. So it's an exciting, very exciting. But let me mention another thing that is important. You know, the last time you and I talked, I made it very clear that I had for some time been chairman of this committee called the Environment and Public Works Committee, and that's the committee where the President Obama for 8 years increased all of the regulations that made it so unlivable. And in terms of farmers, and you have a big rural audience out there, one of the regulations that they were most offended by during the Obama years was the WOTUS regulation, the water regulation. And, you know, it's pretty arid out there in the Panhandle. I don't have to tell you that, and I've spent a lot of time out there. But the regulation of water has always been under the state jurisdiction. Now, he tried to put it under federal jurisdiction, and I think you know and I know that after a big rainstorm, if there's any standing water in Boise City or any place out in the Panhandle, then I'm sure that the federal regulators would call that a wetland, and you'd have another whole bureaucracy crawling all over your farms.
Yeah, that's a whole new separate set of regulations.
Yeah, it is, and see, that's just one. Here, remind your listeners, I have a website, inhofe.senate.gov, Inhofe spelled INHOFE.senate.gov. If you will dial that in, and you can get a list of these regulations so far that we've done. We have over 50 executive orders and 15 CRAs, Congressional Review Act, regulations that were undoing the damage done by the overregulation of the Obama administration. But if you'll go to my website and ask for the regulations, you'll be the only one around. That's the only place you can find them of the good news in terms of the regulations. I'm talking about allowing the Keystone and Dakota access. Some people don't know, but during the Obama administration, he wanted a national school board, eventually taking local control of schools to the federal government. All of these regulations, you need to know that we dodged a real bullet, and these regulations are huge. Now, as a result of these regulations, the results are there in terms of the increase in the economic activity already. And just imagine what will happen once we revamp the tax code.
And getting all these regulations and that back to where they should be, it does take a little time, but it seems like this administration is stepping it up.
Well, we're doing it. I want to tell you one regulation that you're probably not aware of, and very few of your listeners are. In Obama's war on fossil fuels, that's coal, oil, and gas, he had a regulation that if a domestic oil or gas company was competing with China or someone else, they had to give them all the playbook of how they made up their bid and put our domestics at a disadvantage to China or some other country. And there's no reason for that other than the fact that he didn't. It's part of the war on fossil fuels. So I introduced a CRA, Congressional Review Act. It's the day that the new president took office, and it passed, and we had a signing ceremony. The first signing ceremony that President Trump he had with my bill. So that's just one regulation that's there. Now, we need to talk about this, the greatest threat that's facing us right now, and that's, of course, what's happened during the 8 years of Obama to our military system and what happened a week ago today in terms of the North Korea now showing that they had a missile system that can reach the United States of America. And the threat that we're faced with, because it's a huge thing out there, Rick, and we got to keep in mind that's got to occupy every fiber of our being.
Yeah, and myself being a veteran, I look at it, like a lot of veterans. This guy's getting pretty scary.
Well, he is. He's mentally deranged, and he now has demonstrated that he can reach the continental United States. Here before, we had known that he was working in that direction, but he wasn't there yet. Well, he's there now. The only question they have in terms of the missile that was launched from North Korea last week ago today is whether or not it carried a payload that was big enough to have a major bomb inside it when he delivered it. Well, that's not much comfort to say that, yeah, he can reach us. We're not sure how heavy of a load he can carry. So, and if he doesn't have that technology, I can assure you he would within the next couple of months. So now we're in a situation where we have to deal with someone who is not predictable at all. And we know that we have some 44 systems that will knock down an incoming missile in this country, but we have to hit the bullet with the bullet, and we have to, be sure that we can do that. And one of the things that happened during the Obama administration, we had a system set up because all of our ground-based interceptors, Rick, are on the West Coast because we thought that's where the threat was. Well, during the last year of Bush, we recognized we needed to have a system that would knock down something coming in from the other direction. And so we made a deal with the Czech Republic and with Poland to put a ground-based interceptor there. And the first thing that this president did when he took office, and I'm talking about Obama now, was do away with that ground-based interceptor. So now the eastern part of the United States is more vulnerable than the western part of the United States. So it's a real threat. We have to depend on being able to knock down an incoming missile. And it's a scary thing, the threat that we're facing right now. I think of it in terms of my 20 kids and grandkids, Rick. That's something that I never thought we'd have to face in my lifetime, but it's here now.
Yeah, and I have sons in the military, and I have a grandson in the Navy. So yeah, I worry about that myself. But
back in the days when many years ago when I was in the Army, it was inconceivable that something like this could happen. A threat. Everything was conventional threats at that time, and you remember that. And we were in pretty good shape. Against conventional threats. But then, as it started during the Clinton administration, we started paring down. The idea was the Cold War is over. We don't need to have that strong of a military. And at the same time, we were downgrading. China and Russia were upgrading until we're now in a situation where our own top brass testify under oath that we are in a threatened position where we no longer have a quantitative or qualitative advantage over our enemy. Now that's where we are today, and now we're going to have to start rebuilding again, and that's what we're doing on our Defense Authorization Committee, and we're doing it as fast as we can. But we're in a very threatened position as we are speaking right now.
Yeah, because like you say, this guy's unpredictable. He could do anything at any time, and we need to be prepared for that.
Yeah, that's right. And you can't. It's hard to prepare for something, but when the only thing you can do is try to knock down something that's incoming, and at the same time launch something that is going to go in. And keeping in mind, we have 27,000 troops in South Korea. And we have to keep in mind that they are there right now, and we know that North Korea that's within range of North Korea on any number of systems that they have. So it's a very dangerous thing. We're going to have to immediately change this situation and do the job we're supposed to be doing, defending America.
Yeah. Senator, can you repeat the website one more time so that everybody's got it?
It's Inhofe, and it's spelled Inhofe, inhofe.senate.gov. And you'll see there, and then go on to, I don't know the right terminology of all these things, but you go on to the picture of the signing ceremony between the president and me, and that will give you a list of all of the 65 or so regulations that we are have either eliminated or in the process of eliminating right now. It's a real education. It's talking points for everyone so that they'll be well informed on the threats that we have out there.
I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us this morning, Senator, but I am going to ask you just one more quick question. January 1st, Oklahoma versus Georgia.
Oh, it's going to be Oklahoma. Yeah, in fact, I said that to Johnny Isaacson just a few minutes ago. He's from Georgia. And I said, get ready. We rise to the occasion. Yeah, it's not just Baker, not just one person in that team. That team has the capacity to do it. If you saw the game last Saturday, was it Saturday? Anyway, the last game they played, that was to watch them rise to the occasion in the second half. I just wish the Oklahoma City Thunder would do as well as they're doing in the second half.
Senator, I appreciate it, and I hope we get a chance to do this again. But thank you very much.
Anytime. You call, and I'm here. All right?
Thank you, Senator. That's Senator Jim Inhofe.
And Merry Christmas to everyone who's listening.
All right, and a very Merry Christmas to you and yours as well.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate Senator Inhofe taking the time to speak with us this morning here on the Wake Up Show at 7:44.